Welcome back, Future Warriors. We are so excited to be back on your screens or in your earbuds or in the car. We haven't seen you in a little bit, so we are super excited to give you another amazing episode today. It is Valentine's Day in the studio, so I stole a bunch of decorations from my apartment because we have Valentine's Day running all year round. So you will get to enjoy those amazing decorations while we talk a little bit about finances.
And you're gonna enjoy some amazing content today from from some special guests who are actually scholarship recipients. So if you want to get all the helpful tips and tricks on maybe how to earn and get some of those scholarships, don't want to miss out on that. And then we also have a really good interview with a special guest, or so I've heard.
Who is this super special guest?
I guess you'll just have to wait and find out. But we talk about all things scholarships, bursaries, financial aid and assistance, and even budget and how to pay for the cost of education.
Mm-hmm. And we did a poll with you guys on our Instagram at U of Waterloo Future. So if you missed it, be sure to follow that so that you can be a part of the next poll. We found out that almost 90% of you have started looking into the cost of university, but less than half of you know how you're paying for university. So today we're hoping to help get that number up and give you some tips on how to pay for university and just kind of the lowdown of what your options are. Yeah, we have a great episode for you, and let's get into it. Okay, we are very lucky to be joined by Denis today, a bit of a familiar face. He's going to be our go-to for all things expenses and tips for how to pay for university. He is recruiting on the road all the time, so he gets questions like these all the time, and today we're going to put him to the test and see if he knows what he's talking about.
It's nothing too tricky.
Yeah. Let's start off a little bit with what kind of like the baseline costs for everyone are, like tuition, housing. What does that look like for most students?
Yeah, when you think of going to university or even any post-secondary education, the first thing you probably think of is how much is tuition. So what is it going to cost to go into those programs that you want to go into?
Mm-hmm.
For us at Waterloo, the cost of those programs can vary quite a bit depending on which faculty, what program you're in. So they can vary anywhere from $9,000 to $18,000 if you're a domestic Ontario student. It changes a little bit if you're an out-of-province student, a still a Canadian resident, and then it's right around $9,500 all the way up to $19,500. And then we get into a whole different category when we start looking at international expenses and tuition. So I would say anything from the faculty of, like, let's say math or computer science, as well as engineering, that's on the higher end of things. The other faculties generally, though, are right around $9,000 per year. And then there's some programs kind of in the middle where you have like architecture and even accounting and financial management. So there's a lot that varies there, but in general, for Ontario domestic students, $9,000 to $18,000 is what we're looking for. And then on top of that, you're probably thinking about campus housing, especially if you're not from Waterloo or that surrounding area. You're probably living in our campus housing for first year, at least hopefully you are, because I was talking about how campus housing is a great way to make friends and make those connections. Sure. But yeah, so it varies on which one you want to go into. So there's like traditional rooms, there's suite styles. Also, all the different residences that we have are going to cost a little bit different. It's a single, double room, that kind of thing. But traditionally speaking, or our traditional rooms are right around $7,000 per year. Mm-hmm. And then suite styles are right around $9,000 per year. Meal plans are typically required. If you're in a traditional room, you have to have a meal plan. But if you're in a suite style, you actually have a kitchen area. So you're able to cook for yourself. You're able to buy yourself groceries. So you don't actually need a meal plan. It is optional for you. But we actually did a recent survey that found if you were to live on campus with a meal plan, it's very comparable in cost to what you would be paying off campus, paying rent, and buying yourself groceries. So that's a cool survey that we just did recently in the last year.
And then you don't have to cook or buy groceries or go through all that
exactly
hassle.
And a lot of students, even though they might be in a suite style where they do have the kitchen, they don't really want to cook, so they still opt in for the meal plan. And then it's just like a lot easier, and they can just do their morning, let's say, cereal. That's for maybe the most that they'll do.
As a third year, I miss having like campus food 24/7. It's such a convenience. Okay, and what about students who want to live off campus? Do you think the prices would be relatively similar?
Yeah, relatively similar. So I don't know what it would cost to live off campus, like, just because I haven't had that kind of experience. Mm-hmm. With that being said, though, they're very comparable in cost to what you'd be paying for residence. Yeah, it's always good to do your research ahead of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, I'd say first year students are living on campus. And then afterwards, they might go into off-campus housing options, which I would say are quite comparable in cost.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And It all depends on kind of like the area, how
The
close you're
area,
living, if you're farther away,
kind
if
of
you have
roommate,
more
like
roommates. Yeah.
roommates, exactly. And then there's some places that are maybe a bit more newer,
Hmm.
a little bit ones that maybe have been around for a while. So
Yeah.
those prices can also change a little bit.
Yeah. And then aside from that, we have like personal expenses, which are, internet, phone bills, outings, and stuff like that. Do you have any advice on like ways to like cut costs in those areas and save a little bit over there?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there's a lot of companies or products that you can get with, let's say, student discounts.
Mhm.
So maybe if you're a student and you can provide proof of that, they will give you a discounted rate for some of those products or things that you're using. So definitely check out those services that are available to you as a student. So you don't have to pay anything extra for it. You actually get to save a little bit.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, it's a good way to kind of keep track of your finances. I know some people might like using Excel spreadsheets and like using a finance tracker. Some people just use like finance calendars. Whatever the case is everybody will have their own way of managing their expenses. But I would say for outings and for more like the social life and the things that are outside of the school expenses, it's important to just keep tabs of what you are spending. Is it something that's needed? Is it something that like you, it's valuable? How do you track that?
Mhm.
And then also just having those conversations early, especially with maybe your parents, your guardians, and even maybe a financial advisor from a bank.
Yeah.
Those people can offer some really great and maybe even some free advice as well.
Yeah, and a budget is always a good idea, like seeing everything and making sure that you have kind of set amounts
Yeah,
for what you're spending on what is always a good idea. Waterloo has a budget calculator
yeah.
that can help you create this budget and help you keep track of everything. And I highly, highly recommend that because seeing everything is going to make your life a lot
I
easier.
love that you mentioned it, and it'll be linked in the description below as well.
It
So,
will.
you go on the link, you can put in like whatever program you might be interested in and what the expected tuition is, which is all in our view book as well. That information is all on the website, and then you can also put in roughly what are probably your monthly expenses or costs, or I guess yearly costs,
Mhm.
for phone, outing, social, whatever the case is. And then that way you can kind of manage, okay, this is probably what I'm going to need on a yearly basis.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about expenses, let's talk a little bit about how to pay for university. So, what are the different types of financial aid that we can get? And then, like loans, grants, scholarships, and then what does repayment of that kind of look like?
Yeah, great question. Whenever I'm chatting with students, one of the biggest questions I always get is how much does it cost? But then one of the things that I always love talking more about than just the cost is what is the return on investment. So we're obviously paying to go to education, and it's an investment in yourself and your future. But what can the University of Waterloo do for you to help with that cost and even get you career ready after you graduate? So number one, there's scholarships. So there's entrance scholarships. Those are ones you do not need to apply for at all. As soon as you apply to the University of Waterloo, you're automatically entered into these entrance scholarships. They're solely based on the academic average that you have when you apply to university. So the higher the marks you have, the better your chances of getting those scholarships that are worth a little bit more. So they start at 85% for us and work their way up.
Hmm.
So if you're at an 85 to 89.9 admissions average, then you'll get $1,000. From a 90 to a 94.9, it'll be 2,000, and then from a 95 plus, it'll be $5,000 that you'll receive.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Wow.
So that's why sometimes even just like 1% could make the difference between like 3K or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the scholarships you don't have to apply for, automatically considered for them. Then there's other scholarships you can apply for. So number one, there'll be scholarships that are offered by the University of Waterloo, as well as through the different faculties. Some of them you might not need to apply. Some of them will require an additional application, of which you can usually find all of them on the database that we have on our financial aid and scholarships website. So there's a whole database on there. You can select like which program you're going into, or what are the different requirements or different demographics that you may be looking for. Whatever the case is, you can filter all of those different criterias, and it'll populate all of the scholarships that are open or available to you as a student. And then you can apply to as many of those scholarships as you want. Typically, they'll open up in February or March, and then they close off mid-April. So typically, the deadline will always be April 15th
Yeah.
for those scholarships to be closed.
Which is a short timeline, so make sure
Exactly.
that you are on it.
You look ahead of time and
Yeah.
get on it. Exactly. I always tell students like there's a lot of scholarships that go unnoticed, and there's a lot of free money up for grabs
Mhm.
that just doesn't get claimed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways that way that can help you with the cost of education.
Yeah.
And even faculties will give out their own scholarships, some of which are entrance, some of them might be more application based. I know the Faculty of Science, if you write one of the three of their contests, whether it's the Euclid, Chem 13, or Sir Isaac Newton test, score doesn't matter at all. As long as you write one of those tests, you get $1,000.
Wow.
If you're a SHISM student, and this applies for science as well, if you're a SHISM student, doesn't matter what your average is, as long as you graduated with SHISM, $1,000. So that's already 2,000 that we added up. You take an additional like entrance scholarship that you might receive. That's awesome, right? So
Cool.
there's other, let's say the scholarships that you will be applying for on the database can range anywhere from $1,000 up to $120,000. So lots of money there.
Cool.
Also, third-party scholarships are good for students to know. I know Scholarships Canada is a really good website. I think there's another one called Wyconic that students can access. So look at those third parties.
Yeah.
And even some companies will offer scholarships through their firm for, let's say, students that are entering university. So have a chat with your parents or guardians to see if there's anything available through that route as well.
Yeah, just taking like a few hours out of your week to spend time applying for scholarships can make all the difference.
Exactly, even just like an hour a day.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's also bursaries as well. So entrance bursaries, it's based off financial aid and assistance. So if you do require that financial assistance, then you can apply for that through Waterloo, and then you can be funded for that. And that's something you don't have to pay back because it is a bursary. So there's that avenue as well for those families that do need financial assistance. And then you also have your government and provincial funding. So for Ontario, it's OSAP, which is the Ontario Student Assistance Program. Should have known that before. And then not every, let's say, province, but I'm pretty sure most provinces will have their own. So make sure to look at that as well. And if you're thinking like, oh, I might not be eligible for OSAP, or I'm probably not going to get any money. Number one, they have a calculator or an estimator that you can use. So without any application, you can just estimate if you will get any funding, and if so, what is that funding?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, even if you're still on the fence about it, just apply.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they say no and you don't get any funding. It's totally fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, though, chances are you probably will get some degree or some kind of funding, right?
Yeah.
And the funding can come in two different forms, either through loans, which is something that you'll pay back once you do finish and once you graduate. I think the repayment period is like 8 months. So once you graduate, you don't make any payments for 8 months. And that gives you time to find work, find a job, recoup some money. And then that way, then you'll start repaying. And then if you are in a situation where you still don't have a job and you're kind of struggling to make those payments, you can easily just say, hey, I haven't found anything yet, or I'm still actively looking, and they can delay the repayment process as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then there's grants. So that's like government gives you money. You don't have to pay back. That's yours to keep. That's all paid for.
Yeah. Is that repayment period 8 months or 6 months?
I think it's 8. Because wait, I graduated in June. So actually, I think it is 6 months. I think it might be 6 months.
Okay, yeah, but the grants are really great, and there is an option on OSAP where if you apply, you can just take the grants if loans really scare you. So applying for OSAP is always a good idea. Like, if anything, you're just getting free money.
Exactly.
Dennis, do you want to highlight some key scholarships that we have at Waterloo that are kind of exciting?
Yeah. So I would say there's international scholarships. So those are for international students, and they're usually worth a little bit, like a lot more, just because of their tuition is also more expensive. So we help to accommodate international students. There's also...
They're up to, I think, $80,000.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly. There are going to be scholarships for, let's say, Black identifying students or students of different racial backgrounds and demographics. There's also the Indigenous student waiver for some Indigenous students. Their tuition could be waived, and then depending on kind of your status and where you reside, there might be either a reduction to your tuition or that complete waiver, which is great. And we'll have all of that information linked as well in the description with our whole website on the Indigenous initiatives that we have at Waterloo. And then there's also a really helpful contact in there, Alex Degagne. He is our Indigenous student recruitment specialist. So any questions that I usually have, or any students that have questions, I always direct them to Alex, because he really is an expert in the field and he does amazing work for us at Waterloo.
So let's talk a little bit about, aside from financial aid and stuff like that, what about like part-time work? Like, that's a really good option as well for...
Yeah.
helping pay for tuition and other costs?
100%. Students absolutely love the part-time work opportunities that are available to them um, as a Waterloo student, and we help students with that part-time work throughout campus. So they could be involved with like food services and helping with our cafeterias and with our chefs. They can also help with the different like fast food chains or different restaurants that we have on campus. And then we also have a lot of positions that are open to students within our recreation field as well. So anything within recreation or physical activities, we're always looking for people in that area. So a lot of students will work either helping out in front desk, they'll work as like personal trainers, they can help manage and do like intramurals. So there's a lot of different positions that are open to students in that field. Yeah, I personally didn't do any part-time work when I was in my undergrad, but I know a lot of students that have. Have you done any part-time work?
I have. First year I tutored,
Okay, yeah,
and I think second year I also tutored all throughout university. It wasn't for the school, but right now I'm doing a work study,
nice.
which is where you on a study term you also do part-time work and you can make up to
Yes,
$2,000, which is amazing.
gotta love that.
Yeah, so that is also another great opportunity.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's tons of opportunities on campus. You could also be a student ambassador.
and there's also a whole bunch of part-time work opportunities outside of campus as
Mhm.
well. So a lot of the, let's say, restaurants and chains that are close to campus, like connected to our plazas, a lot of students might work there.
Yeah.
There's also two malls located in KW, so
Yeah.
Conestoga Mall as well as Fairview Mall. So if
Yeah.
you want to work retail or just working in those malls, that's an option as well.
Yeah.
And even in the summer, some students might want to work for the city,
Yeah.
for the city of Kitchener, city of Waterloo, help with like outdoor stuff, or even event planning, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
whole bunch of opportunities that are available to students.
Yeah. And I would like the Conestoga and Fairview, those are super like accessible by like the Ion, like it takes you 2 seconds. Same with like busing and stuff like that. So all of these opportunities are like super easy to access and it doesn't take that much time out of your day.
Yeah.
We also have you can be a teaching assistant on campus, which is another way to earn money. I would say honestly, for part-time work, my best advice would be find something that you really enjoy, like whether that be like if you are super passionate about sports and stuff and athletics and do something in that area. I always was a fan of academics and writing and stuff like that, so that's why I tutored. Just find something like kind of in the field of what you like if you like to swim, like you could be a swimming
Exactly.
instructor. There's tons of opportunities out there that you can take advantage of, and um, you can work and also enjoy yourself and also make some money. So
Exactly.
there are plenty of opportunities out there. And then if we're on the topic of work, the biggest way I would say to earn money at Waterloo would be through co-op. Do you want to talk a little bit to
Yeah,
that?
you're totally right. So I'd say the way that most of our students are earning money and helping with the cost of education is through our extensive co-op program. So
Mhm.
I know we already have an episode out on co-op, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's always a huge bragging point when we talk about Waterloo. So
Yeah.
largest co-op program worldwide, and we have like 24,000 co-op students with an incredible co-op like employment rate, which is great.
Yeah.
But students can be looking to earn anywhere from $9,600 all the way up to $22,500
Mhm.
per co-op semester. And depending on what program you're in, you'll have between 4 and 6 co-op semesters, giving you 2 years of work experience, which really is why students can graduate with less student debt or even help to pay off some or all of their tuition, which is a huge benefit to Waterloo students.
Yeah, you can earn up to $135,000
Yeah.
over the course of your degree, which is incredible. And then you graduate with all that money, and then of course you graduate with the work experience too.
Exactly. And that helps you to be career ready as well, because that's less student debt coming out of it.
Yeah. Okay, and do you have any like closing final budgeting tips or maybe any anecdotes that you learned while you were a student here?
Yeah, I would say be open to, again, all those scholarships, look at all the bursaries, look at the provincial programs that we have to help students get to university and with the cost of education. I know for myself, I've recently started using a financial planner. So I just have like an Excel file, like spreadsheet, and then I can kind of track my expenses, where things are going, what's coming in. And then that way I have a better understanding of what I'm spending most on. Um, are there ways that I can cut back on that? Are there ways that I can kind of like spend more in one area and less on another to maybe give me some more benefit in the end? But it really is just a conversation that you need to have with yourself and also with the people that are around you, because it's an important one to have and to utilize all those resources that are there. So we obviously talked about the budget calculator. There's also the estimator for OSAP, talking with your parents or your guardians, just getting all those resources that are available to you. And again, looking at all those scholarships. And speaking of scholarships, I knew there was something I was forgetting. If you're looking to become a varsity athlete, then you are eligible for the AFAs, which can give you a minimum $500 up to $5,000. So that's another scholarship open to you. But yeah, there's a whole bunch still out there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I have a few closing remarks. I
Yeah.
think, of course, cover all your bases, apply for scholarships, get a part-time job, have a budget, like cover all your bases. But at the end of the day, I also think it's a good idea to just take a step back and relax and, put trust in the fact that everything is going to work itself out if you are smart about it.
Yeah.
Which I know our viewers are, so they will be. But finances is a very stressful, very scary topic. And I think if you spend a lot of time obsessing over them, then you might lose out on
Yeah.
the
It can feel
experience.
daunting for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Cover your bases and then also relax, have fun.
Yeah. Things will work out.
Yeah, things will
As
work
I
out.
always say, we Gucci.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But yeah, I think those are our final tips, words of advice.
Awesome.
Oh.
Thank you. And we are joined by two amazing students here at the University of Waterloo to talk about some finances and ways to help with the cost of education. So do you both want to maybe introduce yourself first?
Hi, my name is Beitel. I'm a first year student and I'm studying fine arts.
Hi, my name is Natalie. I'm in my last year of psychology BSc at Waterloo.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks both for being on the podcast today and taking the time out of your busy schedule. So it's awesome that we get to share that kind of student experience and chat with the other students that are thinking about Waterloo and other universities and all the different ways that they can help with their finances.
Yeah, so just to start off, do you guys have any experience receiving scholarships that you kind of want to talk about and what that process was like and how you maybe received those scholarships?
Yeah, so when I entered university, I received 2 scholarships. One was an entrance scholarship that was based off of your grades, and that was around 2,000. And then the other one I received was the Black Brilliance Sankofa Award, and that one was around 20,000, but they split it around 2,500 each semester throughout all of your university.
That's awesome. Do you remember like the requirements were, what you had to do for that scholarship?
The requirements was I had to submit 2 word answers. I think they were generally around 500 to 700-ish words.
So like an essay kind of.
Yeah. Like a short essay answer. And the first one was about stuff that like I've done in the community and like school and stuff like that. And then the second one was like talking about like what I wanted to do in the future and like my career aspirations.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got 2 scholarships as well in my undergrad. The first one was the President's Scholarship. So this was 5 years ago now. I know that they also have a science entrance scholarship, but that didn't exist 5 years ago when I applied. So that was for $1,000, and that was also based off of my grades from high school. I just got it automatically. I didn't have to apply for it. The other scholarship that I got was for when I went on my exchange semester. It's a scholarship called the J.R. Kautz Award. That was for about $2,500, if I remember correctly. And yeah, that one was just a few essay type questions. So it was just basically answering questions about how I feel like exchange would enrich my kind of academic experience, why I feel like I deserve the scholarship, and how I would use the money for my exchange.
Awesome. And I'm curious, how did you hear about these scholarships, or what are the ways that maybe some students can get connected to scholarships that are either offered like through Waterloo or even third-party sources? Like, how did you find yours?
Yeah, so how I discovered a lot of the scholarships was I was talking a lot with my guidance counselor in my last year of high school, and he gave me like a list of places to check, and they weren't really like university related, but I would check those pretty frequently. And then once I like got into Waterloo, I was also checking their website for any financial aid and like scholarship information, and that's where I found the scholarship.
Yeah, for me, again, the President's Scholarship was just automatic, so I didn't actually have to apply for that. But for the Exchange Award, That was recommended to me by the International Experience Office. And so they kind of gave a list of like all the different scholarships you can get. I've also checked for bursaries on Quest. So like if I want to check for any bursaries, it's just literally on our platform that we use for Waterloo students.
Yeah, lots of different ways to get access to those scholarships, and it's just a little bit of research. And honestly, a lot of those scholarships go, let's say, unnoticed, or not a lot of people apply to them. So there's a lot of free money that's always available there for students. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, for sure. I think I received this. I think I also had like the Entrance Award scholarship, and then there was another one that I also received that I was automatically considered for. So there's also like a lot of Waterloo scholarships that I think you're just automatically in the boat for, which is really nice because you don't even have to do anything.
I know, it's just kind of free money in a way.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Yeah. And then any budgeting tips that you might have for some students, or what are some things that you personally did to help, let's say, save up for university, or even while you're a student? What are some ways that you are just being like mindful of your expenses and cost of education?
I did have a part-time job in high school, and so that helped. And then for university, I'm living at home, so like my expenses are not as bad as people who would be living on res and stuff. But one thing I try to keep in mind is like not to spend like too much stuff like from the university cafeterias, and like not trying to buy too much food and stuff like that outside.
Yeah, I have quite a few tips, I think. Firstly, co-op just helps pay so much. So like generally on average, I would earn between $2,500 to $3,000 on my co-op, which is more than enough to kind of help sustain me throughout the semester for my personal expenses. I also had a part-time job on campus. I worked at the Writing Communication Center, but I have friends who've worked all over campus. So Work Study is one of them. The Center for Career Action is another one, the Communication Center. So there's plenty of job opportunities. I try to save money on groceries as much as possible. So one way that I do it is I'll go to the grocery store towards the end of the day. I'll check out the meats that are on clearance. I tend not to buy chicken breast. I'll buy things like chicken drums, skin on, bone in. All of that stuff is significantly cheaper and will save you a lot of money in the long run. Another tip I have is that since public transportation in Waterloo is free for Waterloo students, you don't have to live in the immediate vicinity of the university. And so living farther away actually can be a lot cheaper in terms of rent, because I don't have to pay for the bus or the Ion. It's free to come to university, so I don't mind living a little bit farther away. So that's another trick that I have.
Yeah, that's another huge point, because you already pay into that as part of your tuition, so you're not paying anything additional. And the great thing is we're so well connected with our public transit that it's so easy to get to and from campus to another part of the city, either utilizing the bus or the light Ion railway transit system that we have.
Yeah, and Ions, and I think the buses run until like midnight, so you can be on campus late studying and still get plenty of time.
And I'd also say most of the buses that do come on campus, they're like express buses. They're quick.
Yeah.
Iman, any tips from you?
Yeah, I would say similar to what you guys talked about. I also worked a lot in high school, and I'm also working as a work study right now, which is great for making a little bit of extra income. But yeah, finding jobs in and around campus. Also, I would say like saving on like everyday things like coffee and food on campus is a big one, because it's very tempting when you're on campus to just grab something really quickly. So like I don't know, instant coffee I think is a really great tip. Honestly, it helps save a lot. And yeah, just kind of being very mindful of like how quickly those like little things add up.
Yeah, true. Honestly, Natalie, you might like, but the Science C&D, it's like $1 for a coffee, and it's like refills too.
It's the cheapest coffee on campus. I always say that.
Yeah. And then kind of speaking of, do you have any go-to spots, let's say on or off campus, that's like really good food or really good drinks, but cheap or affordable in a way for students?
There's the E7 C&D there that's pretty cheap. Also, there's the Cafe and Dana Porter. It's not too bad.
I'm always searching for deals. So like I'll go on my Instagram, and if there's any student deals, sometimes like right now they have a shawarma deal for $7 near campus, which is pretty good for dinner. Awesome. That ends up evening out to how much I pay at home. So I'm always on the hunt for those like good deals, 2 for 1 on Uber Eats, that type of stuff.
Yeah. There are also a lot of like student discounts that you could get. There are also SPC cards that are specifically like designed for like student discounts. So I would definitely recommend like looking into those. And I think it's mostly on like clothes and stuff, but it does.
I think also even like off campus, like in the nearby plazas, like there's always like student discounts, or some of them even accept your walk card, which is your student card. If you have money on it, you can just use that as well. You don't have to pay directly out of your pocket. So that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, one really good thing about like orientation was like they gave us a bunch of coupons for students.
Utilize those.
Yeah, definitely use those because it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And as soon as you get to university, like if you have a Spotify account, switch that to
Yeah,
a student
to a student account.
Like
Yeah.
make sure like if you start like using Go Transit more to like move around, like that's a student Go Transit.
Yeah.
Like I think they're like minuscule things that you can do, but they like help substantially in the long run.
Yeah,
sure.
the Go Transit is 40% off for students.
Yeah, with
It's
the Presto card,
amazing.
it's
with
huge.
the Presto, it's actually
Yeah.
significantly cheaper to
Yeah.
go.
And honestly too, like with Amazon Prime, sign up
Oh,
as a
yes,
student,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you pay almost like nothing for like a whole year's worth of Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's so clutch.
It's like 6 months free, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then afterwards, like you maybe pay like $40 a year, which is like nothing.
Yeah.
In terms of class materials, like I know every program is a little bit different. Maybe some requires maybe a little bit more tech, some requires maybe some more lab equipment, maybe there's some other equipment for fine arts, that kind of thing. So maybe just from your own personal experiences, has there been any expenses that you've had to pay for out of your own pocket as part of your programs? And that can include textbooks as well. Like what would you say with those kind of expenses?
For me, I didn't really have any textbook specific expenses, but for my studio art course, we had to pay around I think $120 for all like our supplies for the course, and then another $80 to like pay for like using the space and all those kind of things. And so it is a bit costly. So that's one thing to look out for. And then I think my other class, we had a couple like trips outside of the school that we had to pay for as well.
Yeah, for science, there's a few things. So the goggles and the calculator that you need to use are provided to you for free during orientation. So don't lose those.
And
If you
don't
have
lose the
goggles,
calculator,
don't lose
because
them.
they'll ask it for like your exams and midterms. It's like this specific calculator, you need to use it.
Yeah, so like, and also you have to pay for it if you lose it. So like, that's just like such a waste of money. So I would say try to keep it. As for lab coats, you can actually buy them used as long as they're in good, clean condition.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend looking into maybe any upper year friends who have any lab coats. As for things like dissection kits, you do have to buy them fresh. So unfortunately, like again, I would recommend just going to the W store and just getting it from there. As for textbooks, I always notice that buying an e-book version of the textbook's always cheaper and also way better on your back. So it's probably better to just get like textbooks online versus like the in-person big bulky version.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think that's what I did as well. Like first year, I'd be this kind of student where it's like first day, syllabus week, whatever. Like I'm running to the W store, grabbing all the books. Like I need this, I need this, I need this. But then it's like, just take a breath, take a step back, be like, hey, do I actually need this textbook? Is it a requirement? And then if so, or even if I just want the textbook, are there other options that might be a little bit more affordable? So instead of getting the physical copy, you said the e-copy, that's awesome. Or even like the loose leaf stuff can be a bit cheaper if you do want the physical copy. So there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I would just recommend like if you have friends who have taken the course before, like they might have materials that they can lend you. Again, waiting out that first week to see if you really need the textbook. Do you guys have any like last tips that you want to?
For scholarship wise, I would say try to do the scholarships where you have like to do like some writing for it, because not a lot of people actually apply to those.
Exactly.
And it might seem daunting, but like that essay might like basically cover your costs for university.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, to kind of go off of that, I would say have someone proofread your essay, because I think that sometimes people just think that they can just like, throw them out like that. And sometimes it works, but sometimes if it's not good quality, unfortunately, they're not going to pay too much attention to your essay. So like go have it proofread. You're much more likely to get accepted with like a really good quality essay versus something that's a little bit meh.
Yeah.
I would also recommend like applying to ones that are slightly like lower in price. Like instead of just applying to the kind of like big ones that you see, I would recommend like the smaller ones, because those are usually the ones that have a lot less competition and you're more likely to get.
Yeah, that's a helpful point. And there's so many scholarships out there. You just have to go and search and go find them, because a lot of it goes unclaimed or like unnoticed in a way. And you can really help with the cost of education that way. So thank you, both of you, for being here and really talking about your own experiences in terms of scholarships budgeting, finance, paying for your education, that kind of stuff. So I know our students in our audience really appreciate it, and I definitely learned a lot from this conversation. So thanks for taking the time out of your day, and yeah, thank you. And that concludes another amazing episode with some very special guests. We hope you really enjoyed that, where we got to learn all about the scholarships, the different ways to find them as well, the bursaries, the financial aid, the assistance, and helping to pay for the cost of education and to reduce some of those worries that I think some students and parents might have as well.
Yeah, if you still have some questions and you still would like a little bit more information, you could go to uwaterloo.ca/future/financing for a lot more information or help on how to manage your finances.
And we're very much looking forward to our next episode coming out after this one, and that is going to be all about student experiences and showing that there is a life at Waterloo.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any more questions about financing, be sure to leave us a comment, and be sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, everything. We are on Spotify and YouTube. If you haven't watched us before, go to YouTube, and if you want to just listen to us and you're sick of our faces, you can go to Spotify.
And then just make sure to know for all of those deadlines coming up for most of the scholarships, they will be due on April 15th.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at U of Waterloo Future, because sometimes we have polls like we talked about in this episode, and we might also have some Ask Me Anythings where you can ask whatever you want, and we might have a segment in the future where we answer those questions. So if you want your personal questions answered, be sure to follow us on Instagram.
We'll see you in the next one, Future Warriors.